Today, we are most fortunate to be speaking with Eva Angvert Harren from Beam Life Coaching, who is inspiring people all over the world with her capacity to understand and change the stuck modes of thinking that can define people with autism. Eva is a staunch voice and advocate for women on the spectrum, and she works with addiction. Eva also works extensively with Danny Rady from the Asperger Experts on his defense mode workshops. And he says of her work that it is the most powerful thing that I have ever seen in my life. So welcome, Eva.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Welcome. So do you want to start by telling me, all of us, about your work and what you do and what you accomplish, what you hope for? Because I guess our talk today is centering around women on the spectrum, and it's such a big topic and it's largely ignored because there's so many males on the spectrum, and you especially focus on adult women, which is a really niche spot, but burgeoning and really, really important.
You know, like I say, I work with women and a few good men. You know, it's my passion is to work with women like me. I would like to see them and work with them before they become as old as I am, before they get diagnosed. I'm in recovery, 27 years of recovery. My past is full of violence and abuse and drugs and alcohol. And a lot of it is now at the ripe old age of 58. When when I got diagnosed, it totally explains pretty much my whole past. And my passion is to work with women any age, but if I can catch them before they're 20, 25, so that they can learn a lot that I didn't know, because out there we're socially blind and we're sitting ducks for abuse. So yes, all the women.
So can you talk a little about what you offer, how you support people on the spectrum?
I offer, it's a body awareness work that I do. I work with people from the bottom up, so to say. I help people to release anxiety and release the cravings for addictions. Addiction is kind of just a fix. It's a way of numb or escape. So when you can really learn how to meet yourself internally, how to allow what's happening inside to just be there. And it's just a very simple process. It may not be easy, but it's very simple. And when you learn that, you become stronger and stronger internally. And that even gives you, social ease. You can more navigate out in the world because you're more conscious.
And do you think that's a really large part of autism, is that people don't have an internal sensory reference, so that when you start building that up, a lot of the difficult symptoms of autism disappear, and maybe what people think autism is, in a sense, isn't? Like, I woke up this morning and I thought a really good way of saying it is, I am not my nervous system. And so many people are at the mercy of it and they think it's them. But when you start addressing the nervous system, you've got more power, haven't you?
You know, it's unbelievable how I feel now when I have been through sessions, only because in my world, autism is just a bad Skype connection. It's the way we look at each other even right now. If my picture is not clear, I'm going to have to start squinting and doing all kinds of things to see you. And if I behave like that out socially, you're going to start avoiding me because I'm kind of weird. I just don't see what it is between the lines. And what I have learned, I had 16 years of sobriety and I was still crazy, weird. And then I fell upon this body awareness approach, and actually a book called Waken the Tiger by Dr. Peter Levine. And when I read that book, it was like, oh, I went and had one session with a woman that taught me body awareness, and it was like I came up for air. Like I've been under the water all the time, and suddenly, and I could feel my body. It was just weird. So it's a big belief in my world that the more connected we can get and the more we can sense our internal landscape, the more we can calm down our nervous system. And then there is more space in our brain for communication and considering other people.
And you, like me, very much like the polyvagal theory as a model. Do you want to talk about that?
I read Stephen Porges' Polyvagal theory. It was exhausting. And then I read your awesome book, and I actually learned more again. I love your book. I have to just say that I love it. And I tell everybody about it because it's truly a wonderful summary of the polyvagus theory. And again, to me, the vagus nerve is the Skype connection. And, you know, if you're not, I think regular people, they have this sense, this intuitiveness. It's kind of like the bat, you know, bing, bing, bing. They sense their environment. I think regular people kind of ping intuitively. So they know when to talk and not to talk. They can do the dance, and it's just intuitive. Whereas I have to have my 360 radar, and can I talk now? And you know, it all becomes very clumsy because I have to so cognitively control what I do until I become body aware. Then I too have now developed this kind of sense of intuitiveness. I'm still clumsy and I have many moments of blind spots, but it's amazing how intuitive I feel now and how that kind of comfort me and calm me down.
So the more you get your nervous system back in line or back under your control, the more your awareness, your social awareness as a literal physical brain body connection, it can switch back on like a piece of software.
I believe so, because when you live in a body that's just shaking or itching, or it's so uncomfortable that you have to use up all your energy just not to explode or, you know, or do it something crazy. You have to hold on to yourself so tight. It's like living on an earthquake and just not falling over. When your body is calming down and you can release a lot of that tension, I believe that the vagus nerve actually is healing. You know, it's like the icicles growing up and growing down. It's just literally healing. And as it does that, my stomach, my intestines, everything kind of, and I don't have to use up all my energy in holding on to myself. And then there is space for you. And I can see you and even pay some interest to what you have to say. Because my brain isn't, go ahead.
Oh, no, finish.
No, because my brain isn't occupied in survival mode, you know.
I was talking to a client yesterday he's changed so much that he was beaming yesterday with happiness. And he's now talking about going on, building a life for himself, actually talking about autism and wellness. And we don't even put those two words together. You know, aside from the comorbid things where people are sick very often with unexplained sort of illnesses with autism, we don't look at it. We just sort of go, it's a life sentence, it's fixed, that's it, rather than this wellness model of you can get well. And honestly, you know, I'm on Twitter sometimes and I get really sometimes quite aggressive responses if you dare to say that people can get well, or they, you know, or it's not them, that body sort of clench and takeover isn't them, and you can actually address it and heal it. And it's almost a what's the word, a taboo in some respects, whereas there are you and Danny and me and lots of other people all over the world working in ways that allow people to flourish. And I'm so curious about that. So can you talk maybe about some responses you've had from people that you work with and some changes that you've witnessed and in the workshops that you guys do?
What I'm noticing in clients, if it's autism or PTS or, you know, whatever it is, but particularly with autism, is this kind of, oh, after one session, after a quick little, what are you sensing in your body? I mean, just a question like right there, what's happening? And they're kind of, wow. And there is an aha moment. It's like a connection. It's magical. I mean, it's all, and and you know, you've worked with so many clients, and I guess you get similar responses, that it's like a waking up, and you know, you just awaken to, wow, I can feel. And then it becomes a little scary because I haven't felt that much before, or I have felt so much before that I have to just get used to feeling. And in the workshop, this last workshop we had in Orlando, a woman told us in the beginning of the workshop that she had seen the Stop, Drop, Check video and just tried it with her son. Her son is 8 years old. So in the middle of a tantrum, she tried this Stop, Drop, Check. And it just threw him off. He learned something. And then she is using it on herself so that she doesn't get triggered by her child's trigger. And it was just so wonderful to get that feedback, because she was almost teary-eyed and just said, you know, it really saves me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, it is working even on the parents that, you know, they all don't have autism.
It gives everyone some space.
Yes. It's like you're having a little fishbowl and you're shaking it so much that it can't calm down, and then you pour all the water into a bigger fishbowl, and then it kind of moves like this. You know, it's this whole, we're just getting a bigger and bigger and stronger container for our nervous system and for our sensations, and eventually they don't have that overwhelming feeling to us.
And you can't imagine it if you've never been told it's true. And once you have started, it can be quite discombobulating to start with, kind of being in a new fishbowl, because you have to adjust to it, and your wiring's not attuned. And it doesn't take very long, but you do kind of have to get there, don't you?
Well, and then when things are quiet and calm, it's almost like something's wrong, because you've been living like this for so long that now suddenly, you're like, oh, what's going to happen now? So there is a void of stress that you have to get used to. It's like, wow, I'm so calm. What's wrong? You know, it's to get used to that.
We go up north sometimes and there's nothing up in the desert, you know, there's just no people, and most people can't do it because your nervous system is attuned to things. And it's like that, isn't it? It's a new landscape playing around with the nervous system, and it takes a leap of faith, and I think it's why people rally against the truth of it, because it is such a different playing field, isn't it?
Well, and then it depends on how invested you are in one belief system, you know, how invested you are in what autism is, if you can get well, who says I'm sick, if there is some personal identification with autism. And I mean, all these things that people have kind of put on themselves as labels, And Daniel Siegel has a program, and he says on this CD, I have spoken in front of 75,000 people. And every time I speak, I ask, they're all health professionals. And I ask, how many of you have spent more than 1 hour studying what's right with the brain? And only 3 to 5% raised their hand. We are so focused on what's wrong. You look at the DSM-5 and you can go crazy. Everybody has something, if you know, because of we're looking, you know, if we look for something wrong, we'll find it. But if we're looking for something right, we'll find that too. You see?
Absolutely.
And these people, you know, it's so funny because I'm one of these people, and it was harder for me to come out with autism than it was to come out as an alcoholic. You know, people say, well, she's an alcoholic. Yeah, but she's so funny. Or, well, she's an alcoholic. Yeah, but she's so good with people. Or whatever. There is always a yeah, but. If you say, well, she has autism. Oh, that's what's wrong with her. You know, or that's what, now that explains what's going on. And I think that's, it's a big stigma. And you know, this woman said once, if you would have had a lot of money, then you would only be eccentric. Now you have autism. You know, now you're diagnosed. It's and it's interesting to see the people who are diagnosing us, the experts and the PhDs who, you know, who are diagnosing us.
Because?
Well, in recovery, we always hear it takes one to know one. And also we say that when you feel seen and heard and you can connect with someone with very similar issues, that's when healing really happens. With autism, when I work with someone with autism, it's like you work with them and you kind of, they know that you know. Whereas if you don't have what it is you're treating or curing yourself, I think there is a disconnect right there. And then suddenly I am looked upon as an object or something that needs to be fixed, rather than an equal fellow human being that we can both move on from this place.
This is why I like the polyvagal theory so much, because it allows, everyone's the same. You know, there's so many people in the world. There's a lot of different brains. I'm not really into the segregation with the autism, and I think you're right. You can't really get well if you're looking, if someone's trying to treat you. But if you're the same and you're both learning about your nervous system, and there's an affinity, there's somewhere new to go, and it's a very different type of therapy. And I don't think we're even used to even that language, in a sense. It's quite different, isn't it? And the people like, you know, the chap that you were talking about, you know, you talk to therapists and they're so used to that top-down model, they don't often even challenge it themselves. So they're all right and the person isn't. Whereas you do the polyvagal theory, we're all crap. We've all got a nervous system. It works and it doesn't work, and you run up and down that slide, and people with autism just aren't very good at going up and down that slide. They stay down the bottom. But it's a human issue rather than an aberration. And that's why I like it so much, because you get further and you do.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a different perspective that comes with no judgment. It doesn't come with the kind of judgment like, oh, you have autism and you need to go and learn rote memory and how to be social by practicing stretching out your hand and say, how are you doing, in this robotic kind of way that won't get you any friends anyway. What I would suggest is when you get really comfortable in your own skin, and when all these things that's going on in your body starts leveling out and you start, then you become social just by being yourself.
So what would be 3 really useful things that you could tell people about how they can change?
I have the stop, drop, check technique that I can tell later. 3, I believe what really helped me was to take full ownership and full responsibility for my own experience. I had to stop blaming other people. It was, and people say, what do you mean by it? Easy to become, well, them and I, you know, they don't like me. To really take a look at, what am I doing that make other people uncomfortable? You know, what's my part in all this? Because if I just say, well, I have autism and poor me, then I'm a victim. Then there is not much I can do. But if I can say, you know what? Yeah, I do have autism, but I have a lot of other things too. I have an education and children and husband. And, you know, if I just kind of don't identify all of me, I'm Ava. I have alcoholism. I have autism. I have, you know, I got a lot of stuff. But still, if I can look at it as, okay, that's my stuff. And own that part and not kind of the blame, you know, Roger Crawford says, blame makes you lame. And I really try to remember that if I have a bad time at the networking, or if I have a bad time, well, it could have been just that I had a bad time. And if it was that I was excluded and all this, then it's my responsibility to change my situation. So I think that part, without putting the blame on me and saying it's my fault, but to truly take a look at, you know, how is my behavior? Was I talking 15 minutes without stopping? Then, you know, people start looking at their watches and I'm still talking. You know, how do I learn to pick up other people's cues? I think for me, just for social ease, I think that's been the biggest one for me. And I truly believe that they should call you and get help. They could call me. I mean, truly go to someone that is trained in body awareness. Go somewhere and learn how to connect with yourself first. There is so much healing in that alone, because you will notice how you look at the world differently when you start calming down.
Thank you. That is lovely. And I am glad you're in the world doing this work very much. Let's talk again really soon.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me on here.